Meta's journey into virtual reality has definitely delivered some truly fantastic games, both on PC and Quest. And if you want to see those games, check out my top 50 must-buy Quest games and the best PC VR games in this video's description. But in the past, there's also been some groundbreaking VR games that have been announced that never saw the light of day, and some outright cancellations. From the early days of Oculus to the massive Meta layoffs of 2026, I wanted to chronologically document the history of every major VR studio Meta closed and every significant game they stopped development on or simply let disappear. Back in May 2017, Oculus was acquired by Facebook, and that's where they made their first cut. They shut down Oculus Story Studio. This was their in-house team dedicated to cinematic VR experiences, and this Emmy award-winning studio created beloved VR shorts like Henry, Lost, and Dear Angelica. Facebook quickly stated the reasoning behind this was to redirect funds and instead support external developers, which led to 50 people losing their jobs, and any ongoing narrative projects were therefore cancelled, and this was an early sign that VR storytelling wasn't necessarily a priority. Fast forward into 2018, Meta funded an exclusive VR game made by Sansa Games called Marvel Powers United VR. This was an ambitious superhero brawler that was exclusive to the Oculus Rift, and was one of the first games that actually come bundled with the headset. Players could team up as Iron Man, Hulk, Captain America, and much more, and across the board it got good reviews by the media. But by late 2020, Meta then removed it from sale and announced the servers would be shut down by March 2021. The game becomes completely unplayable officially, but there is still a way to play it. But for the general VR consumer, it was the first major VR title to fully disappear. 2020 though was a big year of acquisitions for Meta and even bigger announcements. Meta buys Sansa Games and Ready at Dawn. In the case of Ready at Dawn, they already had a fantastic name with games like The Order 1886, which was an exclusive to PlayStation, and it featured some incredible visuals for the time. And they then went on to produce the Lone Echo series for Oculus Rift. And these games are still known today as two of the most visually incredible games you'll ever play in VR. At Facebook Connect the same year, they went on to reveal two massive Oculus exclusives from Ubisoft.
And today, we are excited to announce our first AAA franchises for the VR market, which are Assassin's Creed and Splinter Cell,
with only one of them coming true in the end, and that was Assassin's Creed Nexus. Now, for those of you who weren't around in VR back then, the hype with this announcement was absolutely unreal. Players could finally feel what it's like to be Sam Fisher in VR. But sadly, this never happened, with Ubisoft quietly cancelling Splinter Cell VR as part of a broader cost-cutting move. Moving on to 2021, Mark Zuckerberg famously revealed Rockstar's Grand Theft Auto San Andreas was coming to VR and was going to be a Quest exclusive.
I'm excited to announce that the Rockstar Games classic Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is in development for Quest 2. This new version of what I think is one of the greatest games ever made will offer players an entirely new way to experience this iconic open world in virtual reality.
That's it, Mark. I'm moving to the metaverse.
And for me, this was one of the turning points of them showing signs that they wanted to step away from high-end PC gaming. He dropped this news during Meta's Gaming Showcase, and VR fans absolutely lost their minds, including me. And this news actually went viral. And of course it did, because one of the most well-known gaming franchises in history was coming to VR. But then, as we all know, it just went silent, and still to this day, no one really knows what happened. In 2023, we got more studio shutdowns, one of the most polished multiplayer games in VR, which was also made by Ready at Dawn, and that was the zero-gravity sports title, Echo VR. They announced the servers were going to be shut down, and in my time of being in the VR space, I've never seen such a big pushback from the community. They really wanted to make Meta see how much they loved Echo VR, but unfortunately it did fall on deaf ears, and unfortunately it's gone. There was also some other early Oculus titles like Dead and Buried 1 and 2 that lost online support around the same time. And obviously when you kill the multiplayer modes of these games, you're kind of therefore killing the game in general. Fast forward into 2024, we get the first major studio closure with Meta shutting down Ready at Dawn, the team behind Lone Echo and Echo VR. And this is framed as a cost-cutting exercise for Reality Labs. Moving on to 2025, Downpour Interactive, the creators of the military sim Onward, is also shut down. And now it's clear the losses are starting to pile up for Meta, and that brings us nicely to January 2026, which I know is probably still a sore subject for a lot of you. But this was the single largest wipeout of gaming studios, I think, in gaming history, and it affected hundreds of people. But in the interest of this video's context, the studios that were closed were Sans Serif Games, the team behind Asgard's Wrath 1 and 2 and Marvel Powers United VR, Twisted Pixel, who made Defector, Path of the Warrior, and most recently Marvel's Deadpool VR, and then finally Armature Studios, who are responsible for the excellent port of Resident Evil 4 for VR. Along with these studio closures come the confirmed cancellations of some unannounced projects, and the gutting of studios like Camouflage, creators of Batman Arkham Shadow. Despite winning VR Game of the Year, this studio has now been reduced to a skeleton crew as part of Meta's massive pivot away from AAA gaming. It's a total leadership wipeout, with founder Ryan Payton and producer Matt Walker being part of the layoffs. And while the doors of Camouflage aren't officially locked, the studio is now reportedly down to just a handful of employees, with all active projects scrapped, including the highly anticipated sequel to Batman Arkham Shadow. The studio's focus is now to build tech demos and new user experiences for Meta's upcoming smart glasses and wearable hardware. And there was apparently a Harry Potter VR game that was in development by Skydance Interactive. And these cancellations also included any in-progress titles at these studios, and development had to halt immediately. Now, personally, I think Meta's message is quite clear, that they are making a hard pivot from exclusive AAA VR gaming towards AI, mixed reality, and glasses for hardware. And I don't think anyone can really argue with this change. They have also invested billions in the metaverse with Horizon, and that is now thankfully slowly being sunsetted in terms of the VR version anyway, and going full mobile. But what does this mean for VR and Meta in terms of gaming? Third-party developers are still thriving on Quest, and Meta insists they're committed to the platform, and Quest 4 is apparently well underway. But I think for the time being, it's safe to say that Meta paying for exclusive AAA VR games is not going to be happening for the foreseeable future. I'm still very optimistic on the future of VR, and I know that Meta are going to play a big part in it. But that's all I've got for you today. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and I'll see you all on the next one.